Imagine a Tuesday morning that suddenly derails. Two coworkers lock horns over a project detail, and before lunch, it escalates into a shouting match while the rest of the team awkwardly stares at their screens. When these localized blowups happen, the fallout is expensive. Unresolved friction leads to spiked absenteeism, massive turnover, and eventually the staggering financial costs of legal disputes. To deal with this, corporate HR in the 1980s started instituting alternative dispute resolution, or ADR. But these early programs were instituted primarily as a defensive measure. They focused heavily on determining legal rights and leveraging who had the most power in the room. The primary goal was simply to cut the costs associated with litigation. This approach treated disputes as isolated, individual problems to be squashed, rather than symptoms of a broader environmental disease. Resolving a single argument doesn't fix a toxic corporate culture. It nearly resets the timer until the next inevitable explosion. A systems approach treats the workplace as an interconnected, interdependent web. In a true system, applying stress to one localized element inevitably ripples outward. A single conflict influences the surrounding culture, tests the company's values, and strains existing control mechanisms. Organizations must stop playing reactive whack-a-mole with employee arguments. Instead, they need to intentionally design a healthy ecosystem from the ground up. To stop treating the symptoms, a company has to build an infrastructural machine that processes friction as a natural byproduct of human collaboration. This machine has a name: the Integrated Conflict Management System, or ICMS. One of the clearest blueprints for building it comes from the Lynch 2005 model for organizational design. This diagram shows the ICMS equation, a formal dispute resolution architecture combining with organizational support. The left side requires multiple access points for employees to safely enter the process. Inside, options range from informal, interest-based problem-solving up to formal, rights-based tribunals. Using these options requires strict safeguards, such as confidentiality, impartiality, and timeliness, to prevent retaliation. Without these protections, the workforce will likely be too afraid or cynical to actually use the system, making the expertly designed procedural structure useless. That brings us to the second half of the Lynch equation. To activate the mechanical structure, we need the hidden engine: organizational support. This starts at the top. Leadership must champion a culture that welcomes good faith dissent and vigorous debate, rather than punishing people for disagreeing. This culture is practically enforced by writing conflict competence directly into performance criteria and tying those behaviors to financial incentives. Maintaining this support requires a continuous implementation loop, aggressively communicating the policy, training staff in empathy and negotiation, and establishing feedback mechanisms. A structural system only survives long-term if the corporate culture rewards the specific behaviors that sustain it. Think back to that escalating shouting match from Act 1. With an active ICMS in place, the system catches that friction early, diverting the tension into direct, low-level negotiation before voices are ever raised. The goal of an integrated conflict management system is never to eliminate conflict entirely. A workplace completely devoid of conflict lacks diversity of thought, acting as a death knell for innovation and growth. An ICMS transforms inevitable human friction into improved decision-making. Workplace conflict is permanent, but combat is entirely optional.